Hi, Fabian.
Hello.
Good morning. How are you
Good
doing
morning.
today?
Very good. Thank you so much, Abhinandan.
Thank you. Thanks, Fabian. Thanks for taking time out. Um, as you know that Batch Free is one of the talent exchange, market exchange, and we are in a vision where we definitely want to bring in industry experts, and we encourage them to share their message with our audience. So, and we calling this initiative Brag Free. So this is yet another episode of Brag Free. So thanks for taking time out once again, and welcome to Brag Free. Um,
Thank you
and
for having me, Abhinandan.
I think it's a pleasure. Um, so I think if it's okay, we'll start off with a quick round of introduction. So if I can take that opportunity to introduce you to our audience, and then we'll get going with the theme or the topic of today's session. But I'll keep it a little maybe surprise for the moment and let you break the surprise, to the audience. So welcome everyone to one another episode of Brag Free. Brag Free is an initiative, like I mentioned, where we reach out to industry experts to come and share their experiences, their professional journey, and take back key messages for our audience and the next generation workforce. For today's session, we have with us our guest speaker, Fabian Trevor Cowan. Fabian Cowan is the founder of 1BB, a brand and communication consulting firm, which is leading efforts in the creative rejuvenation and promotion of India's OOH and DOOH advertising ecosystems, with the intention of bringing its various forms to the mainstream and creating avenues for its inclusion in the development of beautification of cities, facilitating citizen inclusion. Fabian previously worked with Denso Network, driving its out-of-home mandate across India as a country head of Posteroscope, handling a team of 130 plus professionals with over 28 years of media experience. Fabian has been associated with print, radio, television, out-of-home media, and smart city initiatives as well. That's quite a lot. Having been chosen as one of the most influential out-of-home media professionals in India in 2020 by the Exchange for Media Group, Fabian is a sought-after speaker and commentator on the out-of-home ecosystem. In the last 12 months, Fabian has furthered his consulting and artist management business and is currently handling the communication and brand strategy of few celebrated Indian artists. Fabian is also advising few startups, one in the entertainment and content space, and the other in an international company in the DOOH space. Additionally, Fabian is a trained speaker, facilitator, and is currently furthering his passion as a master of ceremonies on a professional level, having done more than 3,500 hours of training and facilitation. He is also an honorary adjunct faculty member at the North Point Center of Learning and is now developing a leadership program on higher levels of consciousness and how ancient art can throw more depth on the large canvas of leadership traits. Now, here comes the most interesting part. Fabian believes in two very distinct thoughts. One, you will get everything you want in life if you just help enough other people get what they want in life. And the second one, if serving is below you, leadership is beyond you. Uh, with that, I welcome Fabian once again to this episode of Brag Free. Handing it over to you, Fabian, maybe just to hear from you a few words about what I just covered. It's quite a lot, and if you want to cover a broad overview of your journey, and especially around how you arrived at those two key messages, I think very insightful.
Thank you, Abhinandan, for that introduction. I think so. Yes, whatever I have done in the last 28 years is something that's has been uh, has helped me as an individual to be able to look at life from a very different perspective. And I think all the experiences that I have gathered have helped me become a better person. And it's a continuous learning and continuous improvement that I seek. Uh, Also, the fact that I've been uniquely positioned to be able to work with large teams has helped me get a unique flavor of different kinds of individuals. I've learned a lot from the people that I worked with, and that has kind of helped me to be able to understand that at the end of the day, it is what people remember you by, not necessarily what
Right.
you've actually done professionally. So I think
Right.
it's been a good journey. Looking forward to working with and associating myself with people who add value to the association. And I think this is one of that those steps that I have taken with you. And thank you so much for inviting me today. Looking forward to this conversation.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So I think, would you be okay to go ahead and introduce the topic for the day? Because I think, and then I can add on to it.
Sure. So I think today what we will be speaking about is how, as individuals and professionals and people who are doing whatever we do for a living, how important it is to let go of certain things in order to reach a goal that we've planned for ourselves. Also, how important it is to look within ourselves for the answers that we might be seeking, and how in a world that is continuously reinventing itself, it's a fast-paced world, and how we as individuals, when we actually get our calling, we should not wait for opportunities, but just go ahead and do it. So the topic that we are going to talk about is let go, look within, and don't wait. And we'll see how we can kind of put that all together to be able to reach the destination and the goal that we have set for ourselves as professionals as and individuals. So that's the topic, and Abhinandan and I will be speaking about this morning.
Thanks, Fabian. That's actually awesome because I think some of these also are very relevant while we look at multi-generation workforce, and then we have this remote work environment and hybrid work environment where I think ownership, self-starter, those kind of things are the key elements or the skills that we all should pick up, right? So if you're okay, then we'll probably go with the flow and keep it in three broad phases. To start off, if you allow me, then could we first hear from you about let's say Fabian as a professional, or as an individual who's worked with large teams, driving and keeping them motivated to succeed, in what your experience has been, the key factors to maintain the high levels of success. And as we know, success could be different for different people when you're managing large teams, but there is always they're driving towards a common goal, let's say the organization goals. So, and that's what we heard was the earlier part of your journey, right? So would you mind sharing something at the beginning on those lines?
So I think at the end of the day, we are all professionals working for someone or for a company. Yeah, in many cases, we are also entrepreneurs and doing our own business. But just to put this thing into perspective, in terms of how important it is to keep people motivated. I looked up the definition of an employee in the dictionary, and it says an employee is someone that another person or company hires to perform a service.
Right.
Now, we may safely assume that a large percentage of the workforce globally gets out of bed in the morning to do exactly this, which is work for someone. Now, the motivation for them to do this in most cases is driven by the fact that it has to be done, probably to feed the family, put their children through college,
Yep.
pay the mortgage.
Yep.
Because most of us are driven by a has, the output of us as individuals may be compromised either slightly or significantly.
Right.
Now, in both cases, the results are suboptimal. Now,
Yep.
how can this be changed? You know, and I'm a firm believer, Abhinandan, in the fact that human beings think in pictures, think in stories. And let me try and put this into perspective by telling you an interesting story.
Sure.
A little boy once walked into the room where his mother was sitting at a desk writing something. Now she glanced down at the boy and saw that he was carrying a very precious vase that her grandmother had given her when she was young.
Okay. Okay.
Almost absent-mindedly, the mother said, "Johnny, go put that vase down before you drop it and break it."
Right.
"I can't," he replied. "I can't get my hand out of the vase." "Of
Right.
course you can," said the mother. "You put it in there, didn't you? Now just take it out."
Right.
He said, "I know, mom, but it won't come out." And he continued to insist that he could not get it out.
Get out.
Now, growing a little concerned, the
Yeah.
mother called out to his dad.
Right.
And as dads usually are, he calmly walked into the room,
Yeah.
seemingly in control of the situation.
Right.
Yeah, and began pulling Johnny's arm, trying to extract the arm from the vase. He
Right.
tried loosening it with soapy water. It still did not budge.
Right.
And he got some oil, vegetable oil from the kitchen, and poured it on the wrist and tried to wiggle it out, but it still didn't budge.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, the father said, "I give up." And he
Okay.
said, "I would give $1 right now to know how to get this out." Now, when Johnny heard that, he suddenly exclaimed, "Really?" And he took off his hand out of the vase, and they heard a kind of a clinking sound into the vase.
Okay.
So both
Okay.
mother and father, they turned the vase down, upside down, and they found a penny inside. And
Okay.
both said in unison, "What is this?"
Uh,
So Johnny said, "I had put a penny inside and I wanted to get it out. So I was clutching it in my hand."
Holding it.
Yeah. But when father said that he would give me $1, I let it go and took off my hand. So, this shows that how often we as individuals sometimes cling to things that are not as important as compared to something that could be ours,
Right. Right.
the penny and the dollar. That
Yeah.
kind of puts things into perspective.
Yeah.
And Abhinandan, in my own little way,
Mm-hmm.
I would like to believe that with the right kind of effort, I was able to change my team's thinking from "I have to do it"
Mm-hmm.
to "I want to do it." And how did I do that? I think when I go back in time and remember, I had built what I believe to be an attraction, something the
Mm-hmm.
team looked forward to every week. And I
Right.
had called that concept "Wow, it's Monday,"
Mm-hmm.
where we would all get together as a team and share anecdotes of the week gone by. Now, these were real life experiences in the field where people would go and meet clients. And
Right.
these experiences helped each other to look positively at the week ahead.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I even had instances when some colleagues would come and tell me, "Sir, I need 10 minutes with you as I missed the Monday session this week." So
Wow.
people are actually looking forward to that interaction. You
Right.
see, when you are able to give people a strong, compelling reason to
Mm-hmm.
get out of their beds every day and
Yeah.
come to office because
Yeah.
they want to be part of something special,
Right.
that's when you get the best out of them. And because at the end of the day, Abhinandan, the prize is much larger. You really want to do something for
Yeah.
yourself, and by letting go of the feeling that I have to do something for someone else.
Right.
So I think that is something that helped keep my teams motivated for longer periods of time.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I think the story made it all the more interesting, and put things into perspective. And I think, when you were mentioning, I just got reminded of this phase when I was going through a transition. It was just about a year and a half back. And I always liked this tagline from the phone brand OnePlus, which is kind of never settle. Right. And in my mindset, I always took it in a positive mindset, saying, never settle down. And I remember one of my ex-colleagues back in 2012, he was asking me about how am I doing when I moved out from one role to the other, just about what 10 months. And then he said, "How are you doing?" I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." He said, "All settled?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Then it's time to move out." So that's the thing. And it was almost 10 years back. So I always used to like this tagline, never settle. But one of my ex-colleagues, she pointed out to me saying, "Avi, it's kind of it coming in a negative way. So why do you want to put it in your WhatsApp status and all?" I took it off for a few days at that point in time. But I think where I'm now relating back is from what you mentioned and the analogy that you gave. I think it was how we get stuck in the environment we are, and we have to let go of those grips that we are holding in our mind, because many a time the analogy that you mentioned is also we are having these baggage or things that are holding us back, and mostly something in our minds, right? And to get away from that have to, or and get into the want, right? So thanks for that. Thanks for that great start. So if we now look at the middle part of it, where you covered saying it's about looking within, um, while all of this is true, the fact is, that each talent is different, right? And every individual, it may not be all the 130 people, let's say, that you're managing, but there would be definitely multiple and various personas that you would have in terms of the talent. So how were you able to keep these varied, workforce constantly energized? And that too for a longer period of their career or your tenure. I mean, I'm sure you've done this for a very long time with your 28 years of experience.
So, very interesting question, Vinandan. You see, the beauty of working in large teams is that you are in the midst of diversity, in the
Yeah.
midst of real people who have very different journeys,
Hmm.
experiences, needs, wants, and aspirations from life.
Right.
Now, the different outlooks, the moods, the expectations keep you as a leader on your toes all the time.
True.
And I have been through days when I come into office with a plan, maybe a
Hmm.
list of things that needs to get done. But then one of my colleagues comes to me early in the morning and says, "Sir, I need to speak to you for a while."
Hmm.
So we chat, and we chat. By the
Right.
time I have finished with him and just about to get to that number one point on that list of mine, another team member walks in and says, "Sir, I
Right.
have to talk to you. I need some advice. It's really urgent."
Right.
And by the time I realize it, the day is almost over, having spoken to half a dozen teammates separately,
Yeah.
and the list is still waiting to be looked into.
True.
So you see, in this is a real life situation, and
Yeah.
for a leader, for a person who's working with teams, it is about giving people time when they actually need it the most.
Absolutely.
And I learned that when people come to you with a problem, often the solution lies within. All
So
they have
true.
to do, yeah, all they have to do is look. With a little help, people can be taught to look deep within themselves to
Right.
find answers that work.
Right.
And they have the skills, but they are unable to see them as they take their own skills for granted sometimes, overlook them.
Hmm. Hmm.
And again, I am reminded of these school children who
Hmm.
were once asked many years back
Right.
to present, write down 7 wonders of the world at that point in
Hmm.
time.
Uh-huh.
And though there were some disagreements, and a long list, at the
Right.
end of the entire exercise, these were the 7 wonders that most of the children chose.
Right.
And those were the Egypt's Great Pyramid,
Hmm.
the Taj Mahal, the Grand Canyon,
Right.
Panama Canal, the Empire State Building at that point in
Right.
time,
Right.
St. Peter's Basilica, and the Great Wall of China. So these were the
Right.
seven
Right.
the children had written down.
Right.
Now, while gathering the votes, the teacher noted that one student had not finished her paper yet.
Okay.
So she asked the girl if she was having some trouble with her list.
Mm-hmm.
And the little girl innocently looked at the teacher and said, "Yes, ma'am, I'm having a little trouble because I couldn't quite make up my mind because there are so many wonders in the world."
Mm-hmm.
And the teacher was a little surprised, but she said, "Well, tell us what you have and maybe we can help." So the
Right.
girl hesitated a little and then said, "I think the seven wonders of the world are the ability to see,
Right.
to hear,
Wow.
touch, taste, to feel, to laugh, and to love." Just imagine, a young girl writing that.
Wow.
Now, the room was so quiet you could actually hear a pin drop. So the things we overlook, I mean,
Mm.
as simple and ordinary, are the things that we
Right.
generally take for granted, are the truly most wondrous things in the world.
Absolutely.
So all it takes is
Yeah.
to understand each person of your team. I have realized, Abhinandan, when I think of this, is that and I have experienced it, that
Mm-hmm.
this will only happen if you have regular conversations with your team rather than just communicating with them about work.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
when you converse with people individually, you get to know them better, and
True.
when you know each person better, you will be in a unique position to understand their strengths.
Yeah.
And when they're faced with a situation that they think is impossible to solve,
Mm.
all you need to do is lead them to the discovery of that skill,
Right.
that strength that they have within themselves.
Right.
And they're most likely to solve their problems after realizing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when problem solving becomes a habit for people, the workforce is more energized and always confident and positive of their abilities. And I
Right.
think these little efforts that we were able to make as a team kept them energized, for as long as we wanted to. And that's the secret of an energized workforce.
Right, right. No, so very true, I think. And though I'm much junior to you in terms of professional experience, but I can relate to some of these when we become first time managers and all, right. There's so much change because you're moving from an individual contributor to a people manager role, and some of those roles have completely different expectations from you, right? It's not just about the work or the professional discussions that you're referring to. So I could relate. The first time I was doing, though we used to have these first time managers training and all, sometimes we also overlook those sessions, right? Not that important. So it was almost after some 10 months that we were having this some kind of an open room discussion. In terms of an activity where we were supposed to write about each other, and without it kind of anonymity is maintained, so you don't know who's writing about you, but the team is writing. And then one of the feedback that I got was, Abhi, you should spend more time with us, or you should dedicate more time for us. And I was really surprised because I thought I was always, on the floor, spending time in terms of the work discussions, wherever they needed help. But I think that's where the energy was lacking, right? I had to go beyond. So the point you're mentioning about the anecdotes that, wow, it's Monday, those sessions, I think those are the ones that keep people going, right? It's that engagement and not just about, work, right? So thanks. And so very relatable. So I think, now with all of this, the workplace, as we see, is also changing. The construct of how work is getting delivered, the industry, all of that is changing drastically, right? So I'm sure you've also experienced that, right, with the transition or the journey that you're going through. So let's say, now you are in an age which is largely defined by ideas and startups that have changed the world, and definitely, for the better. So what do you have in mind, that is key to success, and how let's say the good, talented people, right, can realize their dreams and get to move on.
So, I'm reminded at this point in time of what Benjamin Franklin once said,
Hmm.
and I quote, hide not your talents, they for use were made. What's a sundial in the shade? So
Wow.
don't wait for things to happen. Just get a move on. Get out there in the sun and bask in its glory. You see, it's not easy though as humans to do that, because
Correct.
as humans we tend to wait on things. Just like
Hmm.
we spoke about the vase and the boy,
Right.
holding on to things. We wait on to
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
and that's where we lose out on better opportunities. In
Right.
fact, I'm reminded of the author Andrew Matthews, who explains this really well. Now, Abhinandan, have you ever noticed that when you are just sitting and waiting for bus,
Hmm.
it never seems to arrive?
True.
The same, the same seems
Yeah.
true with other things that we wait for. And hence the old saying, a watched pot never boils.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
Similarly, you may have found yourself waiting too long for a phone call sometime.
Yeah.
After waiting for what seemed like hours, you decided to busy yourself with something else, and bingo, the phone
To
rings.
get the phone.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So whenever we sit and wait for letters, for emails, for
Yeah.
people, the right job, the perfect partner, some wonderful adventure, or even a dessert at the restaurant,
Right.
or anything else we want, it takes a long time arriving.
The time. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it just never comes. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So as per Andrew Matthews, and in the book that I read about many years back, there is a principle operating here, which is telling us get on and live your life in the present moment and don't hold your breath for things to happen.
Right.
And I think in a day and age when we are looking at so much, action, so much of innovations happening around us, the startup culture, I
Right.
think a lot of people have got that right. When they
Hmm.
find their calling, they just go out and do it. And there are so many examples out there, Abhinandan, where you can get motivated by.
Right.
I'm reminded of writer Barbara Cartland,
Hmm.
who broke the world record in 1983. That
Hmm.
was the year she wrote 23 novels. Now, what is interesting is that in 1983, when she wrote 23 novels, she was 82 years old.
My goodness.
Yeah. So, two novels in a month at that age.
Right.
And altogether, she wrote about 723 published novels. And the last one, Abhinandan, you won't believe this. The last one she wrote at the age of 97.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so when she passed away later that year, uh,
Right.
there were 160 unpublished novels still waiting to be published.
Wow.
So she loved doing that. And by the end of it all, and if you do a Google search and a little research on her,
Right.
eventually sold almost a billion or so books. Just doing what she loved.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And similarly, there are examples of Picasso, and he made
Hmm.
50,000 works of art in his
Yeah.
entire lifetime.
Yeah.
You know, which if you actually put the numbers together, it's an on average two paintings per day throughout his
Right.
life.
Right.
And interestingly, Abhinandan, he said once that the less art there is in painting, the more painting there is. Wonderful, perspective.
Right.
So
Right.
he did not wait and think, well, how can I become famous by doing this
Yeah.
painting?
Yeah.
Or what should I draw that will make me famous? No, he just kept on drawing, and that made him famous.
Right.
You know,
Right.
Similarly, Jimi Hendrix, who made 70 albums before he died at the age of 27. Mozart composed over
Yeah.
600 pieces in his lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Charles Schulz made 17,897 Charlie Brown strips before he died.
Right.
So when you get your calling,
Yeah.
don't wait, just do it. And I think we are in a day and age that we are seeing that happen. And I
Hmm.
think it's just we are all in a unique position today to be able to do what we love to do and make it into a profession. So that's
Right.
that's something that I would like maybe pass on to the younger generation, that if you get your calling and you love what you do, just go ahead
Right.
and do it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I mean, I think, like we said, we always save the best for the last. So I think, while the entire thing was very encouraging, but I think really, really inspiring messages. So we are almost at the end of the discussion, and I would have loved to continue this, even further. But what I take back as part of this episode is, let's say three broad messages, Fabian, from what you covered. So one is definitely the prize, or the accomplishment is much larger when one really wants to do something for themselves, by letting go of the feeling that you have to do it for someone else. Right. So that's one. Second is definitely, when people come to us with a problem, often the solution lies within them. So all they have to do is look within, and a little help is what they're looking for. And I think we should always have time for that when they need it. So it's not impossible for anyone to solve any problem, as long as as long as we are able to lead them to the discovery of that skill, right, or the strength that they have within. And the third one that I take back, definitely the principle, that operates quite long time, but you called it out clearly, saying, get on with your life and live your life in the present moment. And we should not hold our breath for things to happen, right? So, that's, and I could see the flow, all the connection. But would you be okay to share, let's say, one last takeaway, which you feel among these three or otherwise, right? That our audience could take away as part of that a key message that you want to share. Uh,
So I think the entire thing encapsulates the fact that and the important thing is the first step. Like when you learn to walk, the first step is
mhm.
important. When you're ready to go to school, the first day is important.
Right.
When you're when you're making a commitment, the first thing that you say is important. So
Right.
I think the key is to first let go. When you're learning something new, it is important to unlearn some of the things that you've kind of lived with for so long.
Right.
I think the first step is important, is to let go. Only when you let go, you can move forward, and all these things, become yours. It is not easy, and we
Right.
all have experienced it in our lives. As human beings, we tend to hold on to things, but I think that's the most important thing. Let go,
Right.
unlearn some of the things, and then new opportunities will be yours.
That's brilliant. The thing immediately comes to my mind is, our yoga instructor used to say, hitting the mat is the most difficult thing, and but the most important thing. Once you've hit the mat, you'll cover the session for that day. But that's where most of us get stuck. But thanks, Fabian. I'm excited about, thanks once again for joining this. And from Badge Free, I'm Abhinandan, and today we had Fabian as, I just want to end with a few taglines for him: founder, brand consultant, a communication strategist, a speaker, and a host. But I was lucky today to host you, Fabian, in one of our brag free sessions, and looking forward to many more.
Thank you, Abhinandan.
Thanks.
Thank you, Abhinandan, and thank you for having me.
Thank you.